When the hills of Los Angeles, I'm in those Hollywood nights. She goes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying,
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy, the show that talks 100% LA Galaxy soccer. We're glad you could join us. Now it's time to sit back and relax as your hosts navigate through the twisting, turning, but never boring world of your six-time MLS Cup champion, LA Galaxy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on Thursday, June 12th. The LA Galaxy looking to do a bunch of things they haven't done this season, and one ever. They're looking at beating St. Louis on Saturday, and they are looking to extend a win streak. You have one win, you get another win. It's called a win streak. We're going to talk about that as the LA Galaxy get ready to take on St. Louis in another early afternoon game. Can you say body clock? I'll say it early. Body clock. Game against St. Louis on Saturday at 1:30 p.m. So we'll get you ready for that. We'll talk about some of the LA Galaxy developments, including some of the injured players coming back and what the LA Galaxy have to say to themselves after this 2-week break off, sort of what they're looking at. So we'll have some of Greg Vanney's audio, and obviously we'll talk about the first comments from any LA Galaxy member outside of the players posting stuff on Instagram from Greg Vanney about the protests. So a lot of stuff going on here on a Thursday night. We're back. We're a little rusty. We're shaking off the cobwebs. Here to help me do all of that, we're very glad to have him back. It's Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira. Eric, how's it going, bud?
It's going all right. Obviously a heavy time in the world right now. So, whatever we can do to get us focused back on LA Galaxy soccer and provide a little distraction, we're happy to try and do that. But who knows how successful we'll be at that. At least gives us something to chat about for an hour.
Yeah, I was going to say missiles being launched right now from Israel towards Iran. So a wonderful, busy Thursday night as expected here on Corner of the Galaxy. Always a fun time here, especially in some heavy ties. You were talking, you and I were sort of kicking around, sort of 2020 vibes a little bit of
very much
social unrest, a lot of chaos, certainly within the government and everything else that's sort of going on. So it feels sort of like that, right? It feels a little bit of 2020, which is weird because we're not in COVID this time. Although maybe we should all go back to wearing masks. Maybe that's what saved us all the last time. I don't know. It's a crazy time. But I took a little bit of time off. I know everybody. Some people were upset about that. That's fine. I get a couple days off every once in a while whenever we're going about this. But well taken. Got to go up to the Bay Area a little bit and do that. Quick trip back and forth, did that, and then back here. It was weird to sort of be back into press conferences today with the Galaxy and everything going on. So, I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens on Saturday. We have large-scale protests planned across the country. It's also Flag Day on the same day, by the way, so no King's Day, and so many other things. And then you're getting the restart of Major League Soccer and everything that goes on with that. And certainly with the limited games that were played during some of the first protests that were out there, we saw some things that popped up at LAFC in terms of their protest banners and stuff like that. So maybe we will see more of that across the entire MLS sort of stadiums and venues. But we'll have to watch to see how that all plays out.
Yeah, and that's not to mention the FIFA Club World Cup, which is opening up this weekend. So a slate of games that's happening there. There's been statements that have been kind of warnings, to people who are attending those games, people who are visitors, to have documentation on them. So I'm with you with this feeling like June 2020 just taking us back, with that not exactly being the best time in this country, and it just feels like we're very much kind of resetting back in that area. So this weekend, I don't know, it's a tough situation because there's the one side of you that does want the distraction, but that's the other side of you where if this is happening in your community and in your family, then the least important thing, the least of your worries right now should be LA Galaxy soccer or anything else around it. So at another point, like if this is something where you have no interest in the Galaxy right now, given the circumstances, that's understandable too. So it's just kind of a weird time, time to be alive. I'd say what a time to be alive, but it's not right now.
No, it was what a time to be alive whenever the LA Galaxy won a game. That was what a time to be alive. You know, that's how you do that. School all done with you guys in the central area.
Interestingly enough, school's been done for a little while, so the kids have been signed up for camps and stuff. So I've basically become an Uber driver, and then I had a little in-service at work today, so I actually got to be a grown-up and put a shirt with buttons on it. Hadn't done that in a while, and wear pants. So sometimes it's nice to kind of break out of that. So it is what it is.
I just pictured you driving around in like your underwear because you're like and wear pants. It's like most of the time I don't even
There's an image. We don't need anyone.
It's camp pickup time and all that stuff. So certainly some of that. Just a reminder, the league wants you to know. I'm not sure the LA Galaxy are certainly interested, but on July 23rd, the birth of myself on July 23rd. Really, that's why they're celebrating the All-Star game. You just had a birthday too, by the way. I should say happy birthday.
I didn't even mention that. Again, once he gets to our age, I think you mentioned something on the last pod where your body definitely starts to feel it once you start having a 4 in the beginning as the first number.
Yeah.
In your age, and so I very much feel that. And also once you hit the milestone, those decade years, it's not as exciting to celebrate. So again, I just had my birthday this past week, but spend time with the family. So again, that's all you can really ask for. So kudos to you for making it another trip.
Yeah,
your birthday around the corner.
Right around the corner. So anyway, the All-Star game coming up for all the teams in Major League Soccer. This one taking place at Q2 Stadium in Austin on July 23rd. The LA Galaxy doing their darndest to try to get some LA Galaxy player in there. I like how the one on the left-hand side was like the first one, and they're like, look at all these players you could choose from to go to the MLS All-Star game for the LA Galaxy. And then they went to the other one, or Marco Reus. Just Marco Reus. That's really, we're trying to put all of our cards or all of our chips into one pile. We're going with this. Let's go with Marco Reus. Maybe, Eric, is there anybody on the LA Galaxy? Let's pretend that Marco Reus is somewhat maybe worthy of an All-Star game appearance, which it would be tough for me to make that argument. But maybe Don Garber wants the name in the All-Star game, that type of thing. So maybe he could get chosen there.
That to me feels like that's what's going to happen. The weird, I don't know if weird thing is the right move, but if when you think about the LA Galaxy's MVP through the first half of the season, the answer to that is Marco Reus. Yeah. But then you look at the stats and games played and you go, how is he the MVP of this season? And then when you go to the winless streak and everything that went through, then it all kind of snaps into focus. This to me very much feels like it's going to be a commissioner's pick situation where maybe the stats aren't there, and knowing how LA Galaxy fans, maybe the ones who listen to the show know kind of the behind the scenes secrets. You don't want to vote for LA Galaxy players, especially someone who's injury prone like Marco Reus, to get more miles put on him. But given the name recognition, he might get enough of the fan vote, people outside of the LA Galaxy market who just recognize the name and put him in there. Or if that doesn't happen, I could see the commissioner wanting eyeballs on this game, selecting him because of the name value, and just saying, he's someone who's contributed to his team. He leads his team in goals and assists. So having representatives from various teams, I could see the argument being made that he gets selected either through a commissioner's pick or if it's just based on name recognition alone. You see that very often with a lot of All-Star ballots, that it's not who had the best season, it's who wins that fan vote. And Marco Reus, say what you will, he's going to have the cachet in the fan vote.
Of the LA Galaxy players, Marco Royce is the one that I would say is like you could make a case for. Everybody else is not, which is sort of tough to say too. Whenever you look at how many players probably could have made an All-Star team last year for the LA Galaxy. Ricky Puig obviously was there, and now he's not playing. So we're sort of seeing,
and Peck was selected also after there's some injuries. He was brought in.
Yeah, he was
the fact. So yeah.
So he got to play in there as well. But like, you this is the weird thing. And I went back and looked at some of the stats, especially at Gabriel Pec, because one of the things I knew we were going to be talking to Greg Vanney today. So I was like, oh, let me just look at some stats real quick. And Gabriel Pec had a really good second half of the season, and a good start to the season. But the
better second half.
The part that we remember is the second half, and you're like, man, that guy was so good. He was borderline all-star whenever he was chosen and sort of through some injuries and made it. Looking at him, in that second half, he was one of the best players in the league, and between him and Ricky Puig, right? It was probably those two.
And won the accolades that were deserved. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So you look at that with Gabriel Pec. Well, now we're sort of entering, if you looked again, it was a good first half, but the second half was outstanding, right? And so is Gabriel Pec the guy who can sort of make another second half run? I think that's something that we sort of have to look at and pay attention to. There's a great quote by Greg Vanney that we're going to talk to about that after they had an 11v11. People were actually like crapping on this quote, and I'm just like, you got like, guys, and here's what we're going to do today, because certainly there's some things that we don't want to split hairs on by me having to translate like sort of what Greg Vanney said and just paraphrasing and doing stuff. So we will be playing audio today from Greg Vanney about Gabriel Pec and about him making comment on the protests. I want to make sure we get those in his words. That way nobody can get mad at me for like, oh, you didn't say this, or Greg Vanney. If you listen to what he says and you hear it in his voice, then you're getting the full picture as much as I can give you. So that's what we're going to do today as well. Also wanted to reach out, and I don't think we got this on the last podcast, even though it was just into, but a happy Pride Month to everybody as well. All of our good friends, we hope that you are safe, happy, and healthy this month. That's a big deal in our household and hopefully around yours as well. So happy Pride Month to all. Be safe and love you all. So that's the other part of this. Now we sort of get to the LA Galaxy, and Eric, it seems almost like it's this is gonna sound whiny and homery, right? I'm definitely gonna be on the hook. But so let me get.
Isn't that why we're here? We're here to be homery. Yeah,
the Galaxy,
LA Galaxy podcast.
The Galaxy had one more away game than they did home game for the first 17 games, which is how it works. It should flip flop. So they were nine away games and 8 home games. The thing I want to point out is, doesn't this seem totally fair that the LA Galaxy, after finally getting like real close to, this was the first time where they like really pull up next to each other, where it's nine away games and 8 home games, and like. The problem is, if you have more away games and home games, then your points totals are usually indicative of that, because you usually get more points at home. Now, this year for the Galaxy, whatever, okay, you can put that out there, but you sort of get even. And then what happens in the month of June? 1, you only have 3 games in the month of June, and 2 is all 3 of those games are away. All 3,
every single one.
That's one of the thing
that's surprising to me, especially with scheduling and. Is Wango Tango happening? This then brings other questions. This is a Sauger-specific stadium, so if there are no other events happening, the Club World Cup doesn't have games at Dignity Health Sports Park, so it seems odd that there wasn't one home game scheduled in the month of June at home, and then especially given Pride Month and the Galaxy's involvement in that, and that they had their Pride Day in May was also, it feels like you cut people out who are, members of your community, and they don't get to fully kind of celebrate, the festivities that go along with that. It just seems like, one, weird that they don't have a home game, and then to do 3 after the break, 3 road games back to back to back. It just seems like an interesting scheduling decision. But the bright side, somewhere there's going to be those home games make up where you're going to have those back to back home stretches at some point.
And so far in this season, the LA Galaxy have exactly one back-to-back home stretch where they played 2 games in a row at home. They've had a single one this entire season through 17 games. We can also talk about the scheduling. The LA Galaxy, once again, the first game of the weekend. Whether it was first game of the weekend and all these afternoon games, I did ask Greg Vanney about that today as well. And he has the correct answer, which is by virtue of being the champions, right? And by virtue of being the MLS Cubs, then they wanted to sort of put they wanted to put them on TV, and they wanted to put them on TV in those single windows, right? Because so many times MLS had grouped all the windows together, right? And so you have all these teams playing at the same time. Well, they like to highlight teams. So I think Greg said, outside of Miami, it feels like the Galaxy are getting all those highlight games. Well, what does that mean? That means you play in San Diego at like 1:45. It means that you're going to play in St. Louis at 3:30 in the afternoon. The St. Louis guys, some of the podcasters were even joking around like, one of these times, I promise it'll be at night. Like the Galaxy will become, and we
that
will
is
play
a good
them.
Point. It doesn't feel like we've played them, in an evening game. But so it's also interesting how that kind of pans out. It feels like we always play away at Colorado on a Wednesday. Also, I don't know the science behind it, but it feels like that's always the case too. So it's just weird how sometimes these things line up.
It is, and whether that's fair or not fair, certainly for something, me, I'm a big body clock guy, and so I'm like, wait, so you're gonna make them play at 1:30? And Greg was even like, everybody knows the best time to play is like at night on a Saturday night. That's when you want to play, and it seems like the LA Galaxy haven't been getting those. But so here you are, you have a team that finally wins, and I think there was something to the fact that the LA Galaxy get a win, and now they get to sit on that win for 2 weeks, and that's probably a good thing because sitting on another loss probably isn't what you want to do for 2 weeks. But having said that, don't you want to play another game right away after you win? You're like, come on. They're like, okay, we figured it out. It's like, if you're, I don't know, having watched the U.S. Open in golf today, I was sort of reminded of like, you hit a good shot, and you want to end on a good shot, but you also like whenever you hit a good shot, you want another good shot. You're like, let me
this party going.
Yeah, let's keep it going, right? And that's the LA Galaxy right now. They hit one good shot, and everybody, okay, time to fold up. Like, I finally hit a good shot. Can I get back out there and do something?
I'll zag in a slightly different direction. I think given the 2-week break that was upcoming, I thought a win was massive. I thought getting that win and then having the break so you don't have 2 weeks of, oh my gosh, when is the win going to finally happen? You got that one under your belt, it's done, and then you can rest, breathe, reset, and go into the new set of games kind of fresh-minded, and you basically, it's like starting a new season. Yeah. Basically now, okay, you don't have to stress about when is the win going to come, when are the points going to get figured out. It's okay, that is done, that's behind us, and now we can basically start fresh. I think the break came at a good time, and I'm glad that they got that win because then it's one less thing that overhangs when they get into it, and they get their rest going into it. And so we'll preview where St. Louis is coming from. There's the question of rust. So you are playing against St. Louis, who did play a game this past weekend. So they did get to kind of work some of the kinks out. So we'll see if the Galaxy are going to, look a little sluggish in the first half, and we'll see if that, in addition to the body clock, becomes an issue.
Yeah, I was asking Greg Vanney today about the fact that they played over the weekend. I go, is that a positive, a negative? And he goes, it's probably a positive for them just because they have a new coach. So it's another game with a new coach before, you keep playing. And so you sort of keep up this thing. Maya Yoshida, when asked about his weeks off, hey, Maya, did you need the time off? How does your body feel? And he's like, it was good for me. He goes, because I got to rejuvenate. And he goes, get my energy back. I think he said, I'm 37 years old. He was sort of like, I need the breaks whenever I can get them. And he goes and he made an interesting thing from a guy who really played last year and didn't know MLS and now knows MLS really well. And he sort of talked about, he goes, everybody knows, that the summer in Major League Soccer is where you can win or lose, a season.
Those are the dog days.
Yeah, those are the dog days. And he was sort of like, this so having the rest right now ahead of this is important for us because we need to get healthy and do all that stuff. I mean, Joseph Paintsel was, still coming off of injury whenever he takes these breaks, and Gabriel Pec is coming off of injuries whenever he's, they've been playing, but, actually getting time to rest without it having to culminate in a game on the weekend is probably a good thing for him as well. Marco Royce will give you that injury update right now, is expected to be available this weekend for St. Louis, able to participate, sort of from Greg Vanney. That usually indicates maybe not a start, although Greg, he's sitting there. But Marco has been training all week. and he said that he would be able to participate in some form or fashion with whenever they played St. Louis, which also means that Marco Royce could probably start, at this point. It's one of those when Greg Vanney says something like that anymore, you're sort of waiting for him to.
It's been training with the team. Yeah. I think the indicators are there that you'll see Marco Royce on the field. And given that he's been, like we just were mentioning, he's been the MVP of the first half of the season. I think if the Galaxy's best chance to get 3 points is going to be with Marco Royce on the field. Now that, given that they don't have Ricky Pujin, we've kind of seen how it worked through. Royce working his magic in the midfield is where those opportunities are going to come. Oddly enough, they did get their win when Royce was not available, but that is, neither here nor there.
Yeah, it is. It's remember whenever the LA Galaxy won without Ricky Puig last year, and everybody was like, "Man, the Galaxy might be better without Ricky Puig."
We don't need him.
Yeah, we don't.
I remember those combos.
Who needs? I mean, we were there. That was still an LA Galaxy team figuring itself out, which was an interesting sort of take. It's fun to go back and look at some of that and sort of see where it all ended up. Those were not incorrect criticisms, and I know people sometimes will classify that, but say, "Oh, at the time, Ricky wasn't pulling all the strings all the time, and you were living with some mistakes that the Galaxy hadn't figured out how to cut out." Now down the stretch, they figured it out, right?
But my pushback on that, he was also giving you really nice moments of pulling the strings.
Yep.
He gave you mistakes also, and I understand where the criticism was coming from, and I was right there with you, but I also I think the positives outweighed the negatives.
Yeah, 100%. No, I mean, easily said.
Before he went on the playoff run, where there were hardly any negatives.
Correct. And I think that, I think that's something that Galaxy fans are going to forget, by the way, because then he's going to come back and you're still going to get some of those. You're still going to get balls that he'll dribble into people and just give the ball away and it'll go back the other way. And all of a sudden the Galaxy are unbalanced and maybe they'll give up a goal on it. So you have to watch how all of these things develop throughout. But, now it's about the second half of the season. Now it's going to be about, and I hate this, Leagues Cup. And it's going to be about, Campeones Cup and stuff like that. There's some real focus issues here for the LA Galaxy.
The double is on the line.
The triple is too. The wooden spoon, the all those things. Campeones Cup. Win 3 trophies this year. You're going to win Campeones Cup. You're going to win Leagues Cup, and then you get the wooden spoon. Right? That's how it works.
Yeah, we know the Bear Flag Cup is out.
Yeah, the Bear Flag. Yeah, the Bear Flag. Are we going with that? You think Bear Flag?
I like the Bear Flag Cup.
What was the one that
California Cup seems too simple, but I also like the simplicity. But if you're going to go Bear Flag Cup, I kind of like the California pride that implies. And bear's kind of a cool logo. You can, if someone's going to design a trophy or something that goes with it, I can dig it.
Yeah.
So I like Bear Flag Cup gets my vote.
Bear Flag Cup. I sent you California King Cup. Right,
oh,
like the California, that one.
The mattress, yeah.
I think you go
make a little mattress to pass around. Yeah,
it's a little folded mattress. It's sort of
sponsored by Sealy and Serta. Yeah,
100%. So that's where that one is. Gary, by the way, $2 super chat. Where may we get those rad COG jerseys, dude? We've been trying to make and produce these for a while. Our friends over at Soccer Warehouse have put these together. We actually have the newer versions that I have in a box back here. So whenever the Hammer makes another visit out here, we'll get him hooked up with the newer versions too. But yeah, so we have some. It's been my fault. I want to be very clear. I've been so busy with things that I have not done a very good job of getting the next live show. And I know everybody wants a live show. I want to do a live show too. In fact, I'd like to do 3 live shows before the end of the season. I'm very high on it. Yeah. I want to do it. I just have
gala.
Yeah, 100%. A gala, we got to dress up in bow ties, do all that stuff. I will tell you one of the things that we are doing, and hey, it's not the coolest thing in the world, but on June 22nd at the Train Club, the LA Galaxy Star Squad will be down there. We're going to get Cosmo down there. The MLS Cup trophy is coming down there. I think maybe I will. Yes,
look at that.
The MLS Cup trophy,
some good strings
is coming to the railroad.
Train Club. I love it.
Yeah, it's it's a special moment for all of my fellow Train Club members who are who are the LA Galaxy. And it's really a chance to do some stuff with the community down in Orange County too. So hopefully that'll be down there. So you can certainly come down and see that. But that's on June 22nd from 10 to 12 p.m. 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. I should say. So we'll put out more of that as it comes out. So that's going on. I know there's a beach cleanup day I think scheduled for the LA Galaxy that's still supposed to go on. I will look for the details.
You told me that. I haven't seen anything, but I'm sure that's the thing. They usually do it once a year. It's usually around the Earth Day, jersey situation, but I don't know if that's happening again this year, or if that's
Yeah.
it's a different situation. So
Yeah,
keep an eye out for that.
I've been
that
looking.
seems like it was always a cool event.
If the LA Galaxy just send me the event info and I'll put it up because I went to look on the website real quick and couldn't find it. So we'll do that as well. But I know that's still going on now. The second half is so important for so many different things for the LA Galaxy here. I'm really interested. One is, John McCarthy and Novak Micevic, and how's that going to play out? And do we have a final, decision and answer on that? And what we find out that somebody gets moved in the summertime. The Galaxy's still carrying, the 4 goalkeepers / 3 starting caliber quality goalkeepers in Marcinkowski and McCarthy and Micevic. Does everybody have to have an M name? This is like every once in a while. I'm trying to say, I'm like
the triple M's. We had the Killer Peas last year, and now we have the Mbop lineup. Yeah. I was gonna say I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know if that works.
We'll workshop it. It's fine. This is the first time on it. So we're trying to figure out that stuff as well. And I think the LA Galaxy are super interesting because one is, and we've said it before, they're not as bad as their record indicates, Eric, but they're not as good as I think people would like them to be either.
But
so
the results are the results.
Yeah. I mean, you have to eventually have to believe them, right? You have to do something. I've said that I wouldn't pick the LA Galaxy to win a game until they actually won a game. I don't expect me to be changing that. Like now I'm going to move the goalposts. I'm moving the goalposts. Show me you can win again. Show me that there's another one.
In this particular case, show me you can win an away game, because that we haven't seen this season. So again, that I think that's a fair goalpost to have moved.
Yeah. It's so show me more. And I certainly think this, with this schedule coming up in June, which puts them, at St. Louis, then at Colorado. And then, by the way, not only at St. Louis, but then more than 10 days later, you're at Colorado. And then 3 days later, you're at San Jose. Brutal. Just absolutely brutal. As much as this, you don't realize sometimes how nicely the schedule lines up for everything until you get the opposite of it not lining up. And certainly with the LA Galaxy struggling on all these things, you can see that, right?
And obviously, I just want to mention that I do prep for the show, maybe not as hardcore as others, but I mentioned in passing, it seems like we always play Colorado on a Wednesday. We're at Colorado. Can you tell me what day of the week June 25th is?
I'm guessing it's a Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday.
Yes.
Wednesday, way at Colorado. And again, I said that without having studied it and looked at it. And I said, wait a minute. That's not the 21st. That's not 7 days after the 14th. Let me do the math on that. And so, of course, we're away at Colorado on a Wednesday.
There are 2 games I can guarantee you will always be midweek on a Wednesday, away at Minnesota and away at Colorado. The whole reason is, and the reason that I pay attention is I want to go to Minnesota for a game, and it needs to be on a weekend so that way I can go. And we just have not hit that. Nope. It is usually in the middle of the week. So yeah, it feels like a stop-starty crappy sort of schedule. You're gonna have Gold Cup going on and some other things that are happening as well. And I'm sorry, U.S. men's national team, that you'll have to play in that. But apparently, somebody in the chat room said there's finally a team in the United States that's worse than the LA Galaxy, right? And they were talking about the U.S. men's national team. Let's not put that on them right yet. All right. So we can sort of see how this is starting to take out. I mean, even the schedule went, and then you jump into July and you're like, oh, okay, well, this will be, nope, not any better. It feels home to Vancouver on July 4th. By the way, that's the next time that you have the ability to be in the stadium for the LA Galaxy is on July 4th. Whenever they take on Vancouver, then it is home to DC United. I will tell you this, Eric, I am rather pleased this time that because July 4th is on a Friday, that they didn't try to slam in another game, because usually it's short week games for the LA Galaxy on July 4th, right? So next game,
that's just luck of the draw.
Luck of the calendar in this particular case. So now the next game is on July 12th, hosting DC United. Then they'll host Austin on July 16th. That's 4 days later, right? So here you go, short games, short.
Yeah, there's
short
your
rest.
home stretch. Those 3 games home stretch.
Yeah, so you get a Friday, July 4th. You get I think that's a Saturday or Sunday. It looks like on the 12th. Then I imagine midweek. So probably a Saturday on the 12th, and then a Wednesday night against Austin. So those are your 3 home games that you get in a row, and then you're on the road to LAFC. Which, by the way, if you're going to go on the road,
you're home.
The 12 minutes up the road ain't too bad, right? So, or the 12 miles, I should say. Probably not 12 minutes. Probably more like an hour and a half. But then you do that one. Then you're away at Houston, heading towards your neck of the wood. Although I'm not an idiot, and I know that Houston's really far away from Dallas, so I'm not gonna be like, you headed to that Houston game, you're gonna drive on down. It's only like
the beauty.
it's only like 14 hours, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the fun thing that I always tell people. I said the distance from Southern California to El Paso, which is like on West Texas, is the same distance from El Paso to where I am in North Texas. So that whole distance just to get to Texas,
Yeah.
you have to travel it all over again just to get to where I'm at. So again, it's a big state.
It is a big state, but then so you have that Houston game, and then you're going to be back home as things start for Leagues Cup against Tijuana. So that's where the LA Galaxy currently sit on those games. Still, so many things to sort of figure out in all that time, but it doesn't. One is the Galaxy are bad, Eric. So then that's one of those things where we always talk about how your schedule's a lot harder when you're a bad team. You're usually playing better teams. So that sort of fits there. But then the schedule itself just feels like it's a slog in every direction. Even the 3 home games don't feel like they're like, oh, this is going to be nice, relaxing 3 home games for the LA Galaxy. You know, I don't know.
Yeah,
what
especially given how Vancouver's looked this season, and they look like, they're really good apart from getting, Montezuma's revenge in their, Champions Cup final. But they've looked solid. 2.19
points per game right now for Vancouver, right? They haven't even played their 17th game. They're on 16. So they're averaging
impressive.
over 2, which is amazing. And you get to play them on July 4th, which is, it's a weird game. Always has been a weird game. Always will be a weird game. It was funny because I was talking to some people around the club, and I was like, not going to be there on July 4th. They're like, how can you miss a July 4th game? I'm like, I went to like 15 of them in a row. So, it's like one of those things where eventually I owe the family a little time on those too.
Yeah.
But July 4th there, it's a weird game, and you're going to play against Vancouver, and it's going to be a slog. It's going to be tough. It's going to be difficult. And the entire month of July is a difficult month. And then you go into the Leagues Cup at the end of July. You get into transfer window stuff. Like this is all coming so quickly, and it's all going to be compressed.
And given how the season started, I don't know if needing to prioritize Leagues Cup is the right thing, but you may want to prioritize Leagues Cup. And so that becomes another wrinkle as well in terms of rotating squads and where you're going to get the most value, for your season in terms of what you want to get out of it. So that becomes, a thing. So where I was starting with my point on that game against Vancouver being difficult, then regardless of who your opponents are, just the sheer number of games, the volume of games that they have happening in July is going to be tough regardless. But then you throw on top of that the competitive nature of it, rotating a squad, and it is going to be really tricky as they get towards the end of that month.
Let's hear from Greg Vanney, because he was asked about the upcoming week, coming into this week with 3 games in June, and how that sort of plays out. So here's Greg Vanney from today's, press conference. So here it is.
Yeah, it's an interesting month, right? Because we got to win. We want to build off that momentum, but you have 2 weeks between games. I thought it was good for us training-wise, just to, again, continue to work on some things that we want to continue to get better at, build off some things that we thought we were getting better at. But it's almost like, in a way, we're kind of just focusing on one game, because then there's 2 weeks on the other side of this game. But I think the training has been good for the group. I think we've got into more specifics. There's been a little bit more of a teaching, if you will, going on in the last couple of weeks. Just trying to get into details again, trying to find ways to improve our margins, getting our guys repetitions in front of the goal and around, because Joe and Gabe, as specific examples, just have been nursing injuries off and on through the season. They haven't had a ton of repetition in front of the goal, so they were able to get some repetitions in front of the goal. So again, I think in some ways it was nice for us to have some of this training time and to continue to work on some things. The negative was coming off a win. You want to get back out there and you want to go again. So, but I think some guys were able to get a little rest also, who've been playing a ton of minutes, and so we're gonna look to make the most out of this going to St. Louis. Conditions will probably be pretty tough in an afternoon game, and so it's going to be ways to be efficient, which are things we talked about, defensively being efficient, with the ball being efficient, things like that, and then executing in key moments. So
there we go. There's a little Greg Vanney talking about heading into it. So again, I think he's trying to sort of bounce. He is right, by the way. It's even more stupid than even we've sort of looked at it, because yes, the Galaxy have a game, and they have a game on Saturday, and then they're off again for like another 2 weeks.
That's the weird thing too. Yeah, it's not okay. We're back in the swing. It's we take another little mini break, and I'm sure we love to do that math of the the length of the off season was similar to the length of a League's Cup break or something like that. So I'd be curious this little international break that they have, which shout out to Portugal for winning the UEFA Nations League.
I knew that was going to get snuck in here.
I thought about wearing all the gear, best team in Europe right now.
Right.
But not only that, but then you have the little other mini break. I wonder how many days between games, if it's similar, if it's comparable. So that is, to your point, the start-stop of it is going to be tricky for them to navigate. But I think given the injuries that they've had at the beginning of the season, I feel like this is a good thing. You want as much rest as possible to give your guys time to get over these knocks and to, I think staying healthy is going to be, if the Galaxy is going to salvage anything out of this season, staying healthy is going to be the thing that helps them get there.
Yeah, it's certainly one of those. This is sort of how we get to watch this now. Is that nothing can really hurt the Galaxy. Like as much as I'm going to be like, oh, this schedule doesn't work, nothing can hurt the Galaxy right now. Like, what are you going to do? Get worse? Like, it's hard. It's hard to do, right? By the way, Galaxy only 1 point out of the cellar right now. Should they win? Should they possibly even get a draw? And Montreal doesn't do anything. The Galaxy could jump above Montreal and somehow climb out of that wooden spoon spot for the moment being. Anyway, we'll see if it's long term at all. But this is the first opportunity, really, that they've had in a while to jump out of the cellar. And maybe that's a moral. It totally is a moral victory. It's a moral victory, Eric. But you can't be like the guys wouldn't be in the locker room going like, not last. Good job, good job, the whole deal.
It's funny you mentioned that because I'll talk about what I was talking about at work today and kind of working with collaborative teams. It's not so how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So it's small, fast wins. So are you going to win the Supporters Shield in your next game? No. But you can climb out of 30th. You can get 29th. So that's something, a small, quick win that you can celebrate. An insane thing to say when the expectation is winning MLS Cup. But at this point, that is those little benchmarks that you give yourself, those small, reasonable expectations and how you build up. It's funny with the preview of the STL game, I was saying, okay, if they get 3 points against St. Louis, they're only 4 points away from St. Louis, who's in 14th in the West. So again, you're still 4 points shy of your closest team in the West. But the only way you get closer is by getting 3 points at a time.
Yeah, you can see it. Now we get into some more of the Greg Vanney stuff, and this is the first comment that we have. Damian Calhoun sort of asked about the balance between soccer and what's going on, around the club, and certainly intimating at the protests that are going on, and the ICE actions that are taking place all around Los Angeles, and down into Orange County and all over, up into Ventura and Oxnard. This affects every part of it. I believe, the LA Galaxy's fan base. In and around
even
Los Angeles.
Up into Fresno, the Central Valley, that it's not just an LA thing, and so and it's something that's impacting a lot of people in the community as well. So it's funny, we haven't fully gone into it,
right?
But I know you're going to play what Greg Vanney had to say, but this is going to be our kind of, I guess, our opportunity to weigh on it on as well. So again, I think Vanney handled it well, and I think it's best to hear from him first.
All right, so there were two questions, so we'll go with the first one. This is from Damian Calhoun. Now, this is the LA Galaxy put out Greg Vanney talking. I think the second question they put out was Greg Vanney talking, but Damian asked him the question, and so here was Greg Vanney's response. And it should be noted, the LA Galaxy and certainly Rob Jalen broke it, that said the LA Galaxy wouldn't be putting out a statement. I think they've certainly decided to tie themselves with the Dodgers and the Lakers and some of the other professional sports teams, Kings, but certainly the same ownership whenever you look at that. The Kings that said that those, they're not putting out statements, we're not going to put out a statement. Let's listen to what Greg Vanney says, because I think this is as close as you're going to get to anything coming from any sort of upper management. Maybe that'll change. I don't think it will. But here's Greg Vanney sort of responding to Damian's question.
Yeah, I think as we come onto the field, I think everybody gets locked in the training session. We play. It's our place to be together and to compete. And this is what we love to do. And we get out here and we have focus. We have plenty of things to work on. So I think when we're out on the field, I think there's all of us are just kind of locked in on the work that needs to get done. And so I think that's important. In terms of off the field, I think everybody's managing through the what's going on in their own personal way, and feeling, the support of each other and the support that we have for one another. I think we all know somebody probably out there who is affected by what's going on, and so it's hard from a human level not to have some compassion for for families and for those who are impacted by what's going on. We lean on each other in here, and we talk about ourselves and going out and playing like a team and being what our fans want us to be as we show up to compete every day and fight for results and fight to give them the type of excitement and emotion that they want when they come to the stadium. So I think it's always trying to strike that balance within our group.
So that was Greg sort of talking about it within the group, right? And so how the group is sort of handling it. Daniel from the LA Times followed up and sort of asked a different question in a different way. I think it was equally, I think Greg got to expand a little bit more on what he was saying, but you guys be the judge of that. This is Greg Vanney's response to that question.
Yeah, I think, first I think all of us understand in the profession that, that we're in, soccer is the most diverse sport in the world. And I think all of us, you look at the diversity of our team and where everybody comes from. And so, we are certainly empathetic and behind just diversity in general and the support of people and our supporters and the humanity of all of it. But we're fortunate enough to be in this sport that brings us together. And so from that perspective, we stick together as a group, and we support each other and we support those around us. And we try to stay focused on our tasks and our task at hand as well, which is to go out and perform and to win games and to bring joy to our fan base. That's been a grind for us this year, but they've stuck behind us and have really been with us, and so it's important that we're with them and that we come out every game and we really get after it and try to make these moments important for them. So that's what we do. When we train on the field, that's what we're fighting for. We're fighting for ways to get results and get ourselves back into the mix and put together a solid second half of the season.
All right, there you go. So those were the two responses from Greg Vanney. Eric, the floor is yours. Any comments on what Greg had to say, or just the situation in general from the LA Galaxy? Which, if I could start with, at least from my point, is that in the past the LA Galaxy have been front and center on social issues, and
that's where I was going to go.
So I find it interesting they've decided that they're not going to be. There's parts of me certainly that wonder what is stopping them. And I don't have the answer to that. I would love to. Is it within the LA Galaxy organization? Is it within the AEG organization? Is it, do they consider this a business decision? Is it at the league level? There's part of me believes that some of this is at the league level. I'm really interested to see what happens on Saturday, to see if it's league level, because if it's league level, then is it somewhat tamped down? Do we not see the banners? Do we not see the stuff? And certainly on social media, we'll be able to get some of that stuff. And if they don't show it on broadcasts and they don't sort of show any sort of protest that happened, because again, on Saturday, it's supposed to be a nationwide, protest day. If that goes without pass and there's nothing, but we know that stuff happened inside the stadium, then to me, it says it's league level. And then the league is sort of balancing whether or not they want, fans of a certain type to trust them as a product and everything else. I'm very interested to see it, because this doesn't feel like the LA Galaxy of old that I've seen take up these social issues before. That's my opinion on it.
That's where we kind of started the conversation on this feeling very June 2020, and that's just kind of where my mind goes. Is you made a stand on a designated player in Alexander Katai's wife's social media posts, and it was very clear from the fans, no racists at our club, and action was taken. And it was swift, and you didn't have to agree with it, but that was the course that the LA Galaxy took given the situation. I think right now, seeing how people are reacting to the LA Galaxy and talking about canceling season tickets and talking about feeling betrayed by their support, there is one part of me to play devil's advocate, and then I'll share my feelings personally as well, that given, how, the administration operates in a retaliatory fashion, sometimes making a statement can put a target on your back. And in the interest of protecting fans, if you go out and make a statement, guess where the vans are going to be parked at the next home game. It's part of me can understand that if that were a logic going into it. But seeing how much it means to people, I do think that is a little bit of a shame that Greg Vanney is the one that has to wear this. He's not the spokesperson for the LA Galaxy in terms of these types of issues, and it's not necessarily his job to do that. But given that, I thought everything that he said was spot on in terms of what you want from your coach. He's a soccer coach. He's focusing on his team, getting them ready to win while acknowledging and having empathy for people who are going through just absolutely horrific things right now. So it's even a thing, this is where I'll get into like kind of my personal feelings, not to make it about me, but I feel like, well, do I need to say something? And it's something I take a step back, and I've taken a step back from social media, not posting as much just because I'm focusing more on my family and my career. And I'm just the semi-regular, co-host on a niche soccer podcast. So is it my place to say something? But seeing how much people value words of empathy and support, I do want to say this to anyone who spends an hour plus, with us in their ears. I'm a son of immigrants, people who came to this country to get a better life for themselves. And I'm now living a better life because of sacrifices they made. So to see pain and suffering happening to innocent families who are just wanting the same thing for themselves and their families, I think that's wrong. And so being born and raised in Southern California, obviously I'm not there now, loving soccer, which is very much a sport of immigrants here in the United States, maybe the national sport in a lot of other countries. But if you support soccer in the United States, it's to be a part of a community that's surrounded and full with immigrants. So my heart hurts to see what's happening, to people who are just trying to go to work, just trying to go to school, just trying to do what's right by their families, and have to worry about what's around the corner for them, and to look to something else to feel supported. You put a lot of your identity into supporting the LA Galaxy and to looking up to your heroes who, come from immigrant communities who live here in Southern California, and then to not feel supported by them. I understand where they can feel hard done by that, and that the Galaxy could correct course by, saying something. I also think that the train has also left the tracks, that there is no statement that I think the Galaxy could make at this point that is going to appease people who, are upset by this. So right. Again, given what I said, I don't come on this show to talk immigration policy, so people don't have to agree or disagree, but I just want to share how I feel. I understand people who are hurt by the LA Galaxy and what they're doing right now, but I also understand the perspective of what's happening right now is not an LA Galaxy problem. So I don't know that pointing the anger in that direction, I don't know that that's, productive or not productive. Now, right. I understand it, but, given everything that's happening, if you want to take this time to be upset at the LA Galaxy, okay, what are we doing here? But I also understand if so much of your identity is being part of a supporters group, right, supporting the soccer culture, and how much that is so intertwined with being an immigrant in Southern California, then I understand where that's coming from too.
Feel the Berm with the $10 super chat says, I will be canceling my season tickets next year if the Galaxy do not reverse course and put out a statement, along with committing to help the community. Their silence and inaction is unacceptable. Now, I have been told that there will be action upcoming. If you remember, whenever the fires were going on in the Palisades, and what was the other fire, and why can't I remember the name of the actual fire that was over there? Somebody will hit me up and make sure we get that.
Fire. I mean, it was the Southern California fires.
Southern California fires.
There were specific areas.
Yes. But whenever you look at that, it took the Galaxy maybe a little bit while to sort of put some stuff together, but then eventually did get some stuff together. I'm being told that there will be some action on that. Wait to see it, and we'll happily share it whenever that comes out. So I think that's that's sort of one of those things. My big issue is that you are embedded and you lean on an immigrant community so much from the LA Galaxy side, that to sit there and say, hey, we're going to sort of keep this at arm's length and not do anything. It feels sort of like it's you're leaving people out in the cold at the time when they need it sort of the most.
Yeah.
So I can certainly understand the anger that it comes from. And if you're the LA Galaxy and that's what how many heritage nights are there at the LA Galaxy games so many times, and how many times do we celebrate that and do so many things with it? Because me, along with I think along the same way as of Greg Vanney, is that, to me, soccer celebrates diversity better than anything else. Watching World Cups, watching Club World Cups, watching all these things that sort of, come together and bring not just countries together, but, we go into Club World Cups where you have, people from all over these different countries that make up this club, right? So, I mean, like, national teams are one thing, right? Which is always a fun thing to sort of look at, but even Club World Cups, look at how many, starting players for the LA Galaxy are not from this country. I wonder what guys like Gabriel Pec think right now. I wonder what guys... Diego Fagundes is a guy who came here and was an immigrant and now is a citizen and all those things, but he's lived that. What's sort of coming out, and I know that he put stuff out on his Instagram too. But it's interesting that without the Galaxy sort of putting this out, does this hurt recruitment? Does this hurt things? And eventually, does this say, hey, we say we're all these things about immigrants and we want to support people and do all this stuff, but now you want to come here and you guys aren't putting out a statement, and what are we just going to walk? Are we going to walk away from the players that we bring in from other countries too? I don't know. It's dicey for me.
You're mentioning that, and I'll mention an organization like AFJA, who's been on the show, and Pupusas with a Purpose and everything they do. They're sharing resources. For the people need as well, and how they're intertwined with that. I think of someone like Maya Yoshida and Miki Yamane. If you look at Japanese American history and some things that go back within internment camps like that, how do they feel about what's happening in this country? There's a history that's tied to that as well. So there's a lot of layers to it. I don't want to oversimplify it and say that it's not nuanced, but it just I can see where people are hurt by this and they feel like they're left out in the cold. And it doesn't seem to go back to what we were saying in the very beginning. It doesn't seem in line with where the Galaxy have kind of made stances previously.
That's my question. And so why and certainly,
why is this the line that was not approached?
And for me, maybe this will upset people, maybe it won't, but it's why did that change? Why was there a change in philosophy along that? And certainly I understand, LAFC put out a statement and they did Angel City put out a statement in there as well. I don't know if those happened sort of before there was a clampdown on things, but it in some ways it feels that way. So again, I'm interested to see what happens on Saturday, because it's going to be a lot bigger than just, Los Angeles on Saturday. Obviously that's where, our fans and our people, and I can't believe that families are being destroyed like this. Especially, people who are part of this LA Galaxy family. We've always talked about the LA Galaxy family being this tight-knit, close community. And it is. It totally is. If you've ever been around it, and certainly if you look at this podcast and everything, you feel the close-knit family ways. And I went on Rob Jalen's show. They were nice enough to have me on. I said, at the heart of all this, with the protests and everything else, it's neighbors looking out for neighbors. It's, family looking out for family. And in some ways, family isn't always about your blood. It isn't always about, who you're actually related to, but it's about who you choose to associate with and who you love. And so the LA Galaxy community is one of those. Looking at Angel City Brigade and the Galaxy Outlaws and Lars, and seeing them canceling their watch parties for this, because I would imagine there's multiple reasons, but one of the reasons is that they don't want to sort of be congregating in groups.
Safety,
and 100%
safety of your supporters.
100%,
100% understand that decision.
No San Jose trip, bus trips going up now either. We can bring both of those up from the Outlaws and from Angel City Brigade there as well. Totally understand. Somebody did reach out to me and was sort of saying, what can I do? The whole deal. And it's like, you got to protect your family, your friends, and do that. Start there. Start small. And in this LA Galaxy community, I think it's there. So, that's where I sort of, again, it feels un-Galaxy-like. So, maybe I'll be proved wrong, but that's what it feels like right now.
And I hope what I said also doesn't get taken out of context when I said it's not necessarily an LA Galaxy problem, but I go back to what you were saying about taking care of yourself. I think right now with what's happening, that should be priority number one, keeping yourself safe, keeping your family safe, doing what's best to protect yourself. So that's where I'm saying, where I was coming from with making that. So I hope, everyone understands where we're coming from on this, and, just know that I if you're hurt right now, my heart goes out to you for sure.
Yeah, I am there with all that, and I hope things change a little bit, and maybe it will. Maybe we say I don't have much hope for that, but I am hopeful for our country that it does, in all those things. So outside of
I'll say one more thing that the chat was bringing up. When Julian Araujo was on the team, when he won Humanitarian of the Year, it was his involvement in the migrant communities and the work that they were doing. So that's a great point to bring up as well. If you're giving him Humanitarian of the Year for that, campaign that he was doing, this falls right in line with that. So to not say something says something.
100%. That's a great point. I have no argument for that whatsoever, right? Because this was something the LA Galaxy really threw themselves behind for Julian.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear what he'd have to say about it, and certainly if he was still on the team, it would be interesting. Julian, you're welcome to hit us up. We'll let people know if you have any thoughts you want to share, and that goes for any LA Galaxy players that are out there. I don't think this is a widely popular decision, meaning that everybody in the organization thinks this is great. I know that the LA Galaxy front office was absolutely working with, a lot of their, and I think that they have a whole bunch of, first and second and third generation, immigrants that work in that front office. And so it's local to them, right? Like it's right there, sort of in their face. So I hope all those people, I will say this as well. The people who run the social accounts for the LA Galaxy, not your target. All right. Not your target. Not your target.
They never have been.
Never have been. Never. They don't get to make statements. They don't get to do this.
They don't
stuff.
set the lineup.
No. Yeah. They are not your target. And so keep
now
that.
The
in
lineup
mind.
Graphic. That might be a different.
I have had words about the lineup graphic, but that's not it. But they're not your target on this. All right. Certainly, the other people who actually make these decisions, that's where you would want to focus any of your questioning going on. But there's some really good people and obviously a part of the community in Los Angeles that work for the front office of the LA Galaxy. They have my support 100% in that. So remember, just try to place your anger in the correct places whenever you're doing this, and that's the only thing I'll say. All right. All right. Let's get to it a little bit more because I wanted to get to
now that we got that's been kind of weighing on me. Like, okay, do we acknowledge the elephant in the room? Do we not say something? But I think without games happening up until this point, that was definitely the talk of what's happening in the Galaxy sphere right now. So I think it's a good thing that it was aired out. But now we get to actually talk about a game.
Yeah, 100%. Let's see. Here's Greg Vanney, and I want to get to the one because this was a question about Gabriel Pec, and it was sort of what we talked about a little bit earlier. Is that Gabriel Pec has been was such a great success in the second half, and certainly last year for the LA Galaxy, and sort of understanding that he had more success in the second half. Can he have success in this second half? Can he build? Because we've seen a frustrated Gabriel Pec. We've seen a frustrated Gabe, right? And so I asked Greg, this question, and I thought it was interesting. And then it will get to the "I'm back" quote that is popping up there that people are like scoffing at. But I think it's a funny story because if you listen to Greg Vanney, he was sort of like, "Hey, for what it's worth, this is what he told me." Like it was sort of like,
small wins.
I want to see it whenever it happens, but this is what he told me. So here is Greg Vanney on Gabriel Pec and having a good second half. So let's see.
It's been an interesting process with Gabe this season, coming off of such a big first season. I think in your head you create expectations that the next season is going to go just like it did the last season. You're going to score a ton of goals. All those things are just going to fall back into place. And then you obviously have a group that's gone through some changes and some of the things that I think he learned through the process last year, he was having to relearn again and not take for granted, I would say, is where having to trust your teammates, not being able to do too many things on your own. For him, recognizing those things that make him great, which is being able to play on the move, not playing standing where things are slowing down, and he's trying to he becomes a standing target for the defensive side and organizing the marking and getting numbers around him, things like that. So, and the other is, I think, learning for him that he can't just play for like that one play where he gets the goal or makes the difference, that he actually has to play all of the plays of 90 minutes. And if he does that, then he's going to have more of those chances that he's looking for, but you can't just wait for that one moment. And that's something we've been talking about. What I would say to you is, this weekend we played the 11v11. Gabe scored twice. He sets up another one. He's flying. At the end of it, he goes, "I'm back." And so my hope is he's back. But some of this is a young player also learning those things that he needs to be mindful of that actually brought him the success that he was able to have, and really kind of sticking to those things and finding those solutions inside of, some new partnerships and things like that. But I think he's getting there. I think he's starting to understand and really wrap his head around what all of those details are and what those things are. We've been able to try to emphasize those in the training environment as well. And so my hope is that Gabe's thought process is going to land in the right place as we approach the second half of the season, and we'll get the right momentum and the right things around him for him to be as successful as he's capable of being.
All right, there we go. So Greg. So see, like even Greg
He's
Vanney was
back.
like, for what, he said he's back, right? The whole deal. So I think if the LA Galaxy are going to be successful, they need to lean on Peck. They're going to need to lean on Paintsel. Quite honestly, you're going to have to get more out of Marco Royce, and even though he's been the team's MVP, it's just healthy and him being healthy, him being available, that has made the LA Galaxy sort of what they are. Looking at St. Louis, I'll say that this is a team that has fired their coach. This is a team that's trying to figure stuff out. This is a team that went into Portland on the weekend, Eric, and scored a goal and then promptly gave up 2 goals and sort of watched it all slip away. They have some of
That's our thing.
Yeah, I was going to say they have some of the Galaxy in them, right? Which is, if you can get them down, if you can get them to put their heads down, then you can have, I think, a successful run against them. If you can sort of turn the table on things. And remember, St. Louis was like the team that was the biggest counter team ever in the history of counter teams. And I think we're seeing that sort of slide in a different direction. Maybe that's because they've been behind a lot. And one of the things to sort of look at, and I brought this chart out because I thought it was really interesting, is that their XG is 21, right? They're like 21.7, and their goals for is 14. They are drastically underperforming their expected goals. The expected goals for the Galaxy are 18.6, and the Galaxy have 50. We found a team that has scored less goals than the LA Galaxy, Eric, which nobody thought was possible. But that's what you're seeing out of St. Louis. They've drastically underperformed.
Yeah, I think that's the hope that you have going into this. Their top goal scorer has 3 goals, and so that's something when you think about even the Galaxy with Christian Ramirez having 4 goals, you think, man, what a terrible season the Galaxy is having. Their top goal scorer only has 4 goals through 17 games, and St. Louis's top scorer doesn't beat that. So that says what it needs to say about figuring that out. Now, that being said, when they played the Galaxy here at Dignity Health Sports Park, they beat them 3-0.
Yes. And
a lot of those were the counterattack goals like you were mentioning. So something happened between last time they played and, where they're catching them now, where they lost a lot of that magic. So you're going to hope that they figure it out. I want to also revisit Gabriel Pec's the I'm back conversation. Fan conversation happens all the time in terms of why is player X starting in terms of player Y, and the conversation is always, well, if player Y was doing great in training, then obviously they'd show something and he'd be coming off the bench and he'd be starting or whatever it is. Well, we're hearing from the coach, this player is doing great in training. He's feeling himself. He's feeling good about how he's doing. So I understand not getting overhyped because Peck scored 2 goals in training, but this is the type of good kind of the good vibes and the good things that you want to see. You want to see a player like Gabriel Pec feeling confidence and going back to what he was saying about playing in more aspects of the game instead of just looking for those home runs. Luis Enrique, the PSG coach, there was a video going viral of him talking to Mbappe about how he needs to track back and be involved in other plays and divert the runs, that it's not just about scoring the goals, it's all the things off the ball and leading up to it that are going to cause good things to happen. And then he's telling that to Mbappe, and now Mbappe's at Real Madrid, and PSG is winning a Champions League without him. So I think that's very similar in that vein. And yes, I just compared Champions League winning PSG to
Right.
The LA Galaxy, who are currently in
Obviously.
30th place.
Yes.
But the
Very
message
similar.
is the same. The message is the same. It's not the home runs that are going to get you there. It's the consistency and hard work and grit that we saw last season that's going to end up paying off. It's not just going to be those little moments. So I think hearing that Pec is feeling himself in terms of, getting in knack for scoring goals again, and then also Vanney giving him the right messaging and what he wants out of him, I think you're going to see a hungry LA Galaxy team when they hit the field on Saturday.
I hope so. I hope that that's the case. I hope that this is, that we can say this is the turn. This is the point. The win against RSL. RSL was a bad team, and we know it.
There was a bad RSL team.
Yeah. Quite honestly, St. Louis, look at the standings, is a bad team. All right, they have 7 more points than the LA Galaxy right now. They're at .82, so basically double the points per game, exactly double the points per game for St. Louis. Technically speaking, Real Salt Lake is 1 point better than St. Louis right now. But St. Louis is playing at home. You're playing at 3:30. By the way, that game is a 1:30 p.m. start time here on the West Coast. The kickoff is 1:55 p.m. So I just want everybody to understand. 1:55 p.m. The game is on MLS Season Pass, Fox, MLS Season Pass on Apple TV, Fox, and Fox Deportes. So this is a Fox game. Fox really wanted the 15th LA Galaxy at the 14th St. Louis. When are we going to start flexing these games? We need to start flexing.
At some point. I thought the midway point would be the time to start flexing these, but again, apparently these were written, at a blood oath that these games were going to happen. Have you mentioned Body Clock yet?
Oh yeah, I said at the very beginning. I just wanted to make sure because I want to make sure.
I was going to say we get super chats for every time we say Body Clock, so we just got to keep.
I don't know if we
going.
do. I think that's the problem. But
Might
by
be
the way,
opposite. Yeah.
there was a super chat that I wanted to get to because Lasso's Optimism $5 super chat. Evening gents, time for a winning streak starts on Saturday. See, that's optimism from Lasso's Optimism. Screen names checks out. That's all you ever want.
On the nose. Sometimes the answer is right on the nose. The shortest path is a straight line.
It depends if you're flying. It's curved. Just letting you know.
Okay.
I don't want people to freak out about that. The Earth is round. A curved line over it makes some sense. Okay. Just
Fair enough.
promise.
That explains what those flight maps look like.
That's possibly. But this is where sort of in many ways this is the rubber meets the road. You're on the road. You got to go in there and you got to find something. And I think St. Louis provides you a chance to try and find something. Now, you want to know the formula for beating St. Louis on the road? It's going to be a boring one. I don't think a lot of people are going to know it. If you listen to Greg Vanney, he talked about it a little bit, which was sort of managing what they're able to do because it's going to be an afternoon game. Because I haven't looked up the weather yet in St. Louis, but St. Louis in June, I'm guessing the humidity is going to be a little bit high at 3:30 p.m. Again, could have been a night game. Can I get a T-shirt that just said this could have been a night game? Because I feel like that's this could have been an email. It's the same definite vibe that we need to go. This could have been a night game for the LA Galaxy going and playing in St. Louis, and then I think you sort of do it. Advantage St. Louis, 100%.
And I think Roman Berkey factors into that as well.
What,
when you look at
what
are
a
you
dick
gonna
that guy is. He stops everything.
You're not gonna get a goal fest against Roman Berkey. You look at his goals conceded, and I think there's one anomaly where there's a loss 4-1 at Seattle, and that's the most goals that they've conceded in this season. So I think that's a factor as well. Away at St. Louis, time of day, and then the fact that they have Roman Berkey between the sticks, scoring goals is not going to be something that comes easy.
No, it isn't. We can look at the most recent results. Very similar, actually. Very similar. So St. Louis has won 3 games all year.
They snuck an 11-game winless streak in there. Yeah, they tried to compete with us for a little bit.
I was gonna say they just couldn't hang in there, right? They didn't have the commitment. There was a game of chicken going on between the LA Galaxy and St. Louis, and St. Louis swerved. Right? It was one of those. They won those games early. But yeah, one of the games that they won was at LA, the 3-0 game, and now they beat San Jose at home. Just most recently, they also beat Seattle at home. So the majority of their wins, 2 of them, have come at home. This is going to be a difficult team. Just watching them play against Portland, you can see they have the magic to be able to do some things. Their defense is atrocious, though. And that's sort of where you sit there and go, okay, with all the scoring acumen that the LA Galaxy supposedly have, that should be a place to do it. Running at those defenders that they have. Kessler and Reed and Totland and I can't even say that guy's name. Bomqua, right? In there.
Sure.
Yeah, I know, right?
You
Everybody knows that guy. It's different than having, Klaus up top, right? And
Klaus
sort of,
is an easy one.
yeah, and so Morales and Betcher, right? And
Betcher is the one who killed us last time, kind of opened the floodgates against us. So that's a name that you look right down the spine of that lineup, and that's where the Galaxy have to be concerned.
Yeah, and it's Berkey. By the way, whenever you talk about down the spine, you just skip the defense. Whenever you do that, it's Berkey, and then
there's
it's
a
Betcher,
space there. Yeah,
and that's Klaus, right? Yeah, you can slide right in between. That's true. Yeah, it's right between the center backs. But that's where you sort of see the strong suit. The interesting thing watching them play against Portland is they tried to have a lot more of the ball. And maybe that was, again, because they found themselves, it was 1-0, and then all of a sudden it was 1-1, and then it's 2-1, and now you're chasing. And so that's usually when you're chasing, you end up having more of the ball. That being said, them at home still feels like they're more of a counterattacking team. We'll see. One of the things that was interesting was just looking at Philadelphia and how Philadelphia goes through a coaching change and how they still play like Philadelphia. Greg Vanney was adamant about that. It still feels like Philadelphia. St. Louis is starting to not feel like St. Louis to me. Right. And so, that can be a problem whenever you're trying to change philosophies inside of a season. And I think the Galaxy have to take advantage of that. Does that mean that I'm going to pick the LA Galaxy to win on the road right now? No, I'm not. But I think there's going to be chances for them. If the Galaxy pick their chances correctly, yes, they can beat the St. Louis team. I think that the talent gap is actually pretty wide. That being said, it's real ballsy of a podcast for a team that is in 15th place and won one game all year to be like, well, the talent gap, there's just so much more talent on the other side.
Yeah, and if that gap exists and it's real, then this is the opportunity to kind of show how it works. You mentioned how St. Louis is not a possession team. The Galaxy is very much a possession team that likes to rely on their wings, especially without Ricky Puig. So I think when you look at that, if St. Louis, not a possession team, good in the middle, and the Galaxy good in possession and on the wing, that's kind of the recipe for success. So if the Galaxy are who we think they are, then they should walk out of here with at least a point.
They are who we think they are. What do you want to do? D ratings? Do you have it? You ready?
D ratings. I do have D ratings. So again, St. Louis City being the home team and the Galaxy being in 30th place, they're still the favorites with a 49.3% chance to win. The Galaxy with only a 25.8% chance to win, and then 24.9% chance to draw. You like to say that if there's more than 50% on the loss or draw, that's usually a good thing for the away team going into it. You look at XG projected goals, St. Louis City with 1.6, and then the Galaxy with 1.09. But if they're not meeting their XG, then that's also a good sign for the Galaxy. When you look at the Vegas odds, Galaxy at plus 240, St. Louis at plus 105. And there's some variations on that as well. So again, where is your money to be made? Are you going to be the madman who puts money on a draw at plus 270, plus 265, something in that range? I know I kind of like that move.
Yeah, it's not. You want to. Let's get into some betting stuff here just real quickly, right? If you want to beat Vegas at anything, then start feeling if you're comfortable thinking the LA Galaxy are going to have a good second half. Because there's going to be numbers, especially in these next three games, because they're all on the road. There's going to be numbers that allow you to get behind the LA Galaxy in this. And if you believe that, then you could try to do that. This is all about trying to catch the trend before Vegas catches the trend. This could be that. It also could be that the LA Galaxy are exactly the same team that is currently in 15th place. Those are your, again, don't bet money you need. Okay,
yeah.
let's not have any problems.
Only if you have disposable income.
Yeah, this is for fun. Okay. Here's the thing. It is supposed to rain on Saturday. Right now it's supposed to be raining until about 10 a.m. according to mine, and then it's supposed to rain again, about a 55% chance of rain at 3 p.m. So maybe it all clears through. Maybe they get some warm-ups in under some rain, that type of thing. There are some chances for some thunderstorms in there as well. So maybe this ends up being a night game, Eric. That's what you need. Yeah. You just need a 6-hour delay. Push it. Yeah.
Well, 55% means there's a 100% chance it will rain, but only cover 55% of the area. So maybe they're in that 45% that doesn't get covered.
It doesn't get covered. 100%. Wow, did you just explain how weather percentages work, Eric? I'm so proud.
Some people didn't know that. Not everyone knows that.
No, they're like, it just means that it might not rain. No, it's going to rain. It's going to rain somewhere, all right? It's just probably not going to rain.
I'm going to go out on a limb. Someone learned that right now. 100%. Someone just figured that out.
Somebody dropped the phone. They were like, what is this guy talking about? right? So no, we'll sort of see how that goes. All right, predictions guaranteed to be wrong because let's get to that. They haven't been playing games. We don't need to be here for another 2 hours. Let's get to where it's at.
Yeah. I think the recipe for the Galaxy is, if they want to get a victory, is to score an early goal and just fend off, St. Louis and figure it out. The old smash and grab.
Yes.
As you say, like a 1-0 victory. But I just don't feel like I can trust this Galaxy team to get a win on the road. I feel like the defense will let in a goal. So I'm betting on a 1-1 draw.
Oh, man, ace of them spades. There's always a 50% chance of rain. It's either going to rain or it's not. See, somebody's on top of this.
Feeling lucky, Punk?
Right? That's 100%. There's always a 50% chance. So we'll see that. Okay. Will not pick the LA Galaxy to win. Smash and grab a draw. I mean, I think here's
late. You go the opposite.
It's gonna be late. It's gonna go late. I say that St. Louis scores. Watch, it'll be 0-0 going into the half. Klaus is going to come out of the second half and score a goal. It's going to be 1-0. St. Louis is going to go to Park, and the LA Galaxy are going to spend 45 minutes just trying to break down a St. Louis team that's bunkered in behind everything. And, Gabriel Pec's going to take a weird, stupid shot from outside the box, going to pinball off 3 people and go in the goal, and they're going to blow the whistle in the end of the game.
Perfect.
And then
Miro Garces, who was subbed in, it's going to go off his cap.
No.
So you always have someone weird and unexpected. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where it is. We will see where we're at in terms of lineups and everything. It's interesting to me that because there's one game on an island here, that you could do something like start Marco Royce, right? You could start Marco Royce.
I think you have to. Yeah.
Maybe you do, right? The whole deal. But anyway, we will see where that goes. All right, geez. I think that's it. I think we should probably park it at that. I will put the LA Galaxy to 1-1 draw. What'd you have again? You had the smash and grab?
I had a 1-1 draw also.
Okay, you had a 1-1. You had a 1-1
I said
draw,
I think the recipe is a smash and grab,
right?
But I don't trust them to do it.
Yeah, you can't. They're not baking chocolate chip cookies here. All right, they're just trying to make scrambled eggs at this point, and we'll see where it goes. The LA Galaxy take on St. Louis again. 1:30 p.m. is your start time for TV on the West Coast, but that game will kick off at 1:55 p.m. So sit in there for your 25-minute lead-in to all these things, but it's on Apple TV, Fox, and Fox Deportes, so you're not behind a paywall. Anything else, Mr. Eric?
No, I think we're good. I think we've said enough. Like you said, without any games, we've said plenty.
I said something in the chat, and I will say it again. And if I didn't say it, I now want to say it again. I love you all. You're part of this family. You're part of the COG family, part of the LA Galaxy family. And I support and want the best for you all. So, reach out. I'm here. Anything I can do to help, I will do my darndest to be there. Because I treat this as a family. It always has been. From the very beginning, whenever I started following the LA Galaxy, there was a bunch of us used to be under the Galaxy Shore banner. If everybody remembers way back in the day, we used to have some nice tequila and squirt and hang out. And, the coolest thing about that was really diverse group. It was fun to be around. You got to learn new things, got to learn new cultures. And that's sort of the fun thing about do you think I would like pupusas, Eric? Like if it wasn't for the people around the LA, do you think I would just stumble into pupusas and be like, oh, let me try some pupusas? No, that wouldn't have happened. It's because of the LA Galaxy.
Two groups of people who like pupusas and people who haven't tried them yet.
That's 100%, right? But I would have been like, what is that? That's weird. It looks weird. I'm not going to try it. So anyway, that's where I'm at. I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. Be safe, please. I understand things are going on. Please be safe. We want you back whenever the LA Galaxy finally make it back on July 4th. We want you back for the rest of the season. Certainly hanging out with us here at the podcast. So please be safe as it goes through this whole month and into July 4th and everything else. Again, love you all. Be safe. Anything else, Eric? You good?
I just want to shout out ACB and Bruce, aka Granny Mayo. They're collaborating on a T-shirt. Those proceeds go to Border Kindness, the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights, and the Immigrant Defenders Law Center. If you follow AFJA, they've been posting resources from the Salvadorian American Leadership and Education Fund. So again, they've been supporters of our show, so I'm going to be supporters of them. And 100%. If you're looking for resource, there's resources there, places for you to donate if you feel inclined to do so. So just again, I'm with you. Stay safe, sending love and support to everyone out there.
Eric, tell people where they can find you. Let's go.
All right, as always, you can find me on Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, at HammerEV9. That's HammerEV and the number 9.
All right, if you're looking for me on all the socials, it is at Galaxy Podcast. CorneroftheGalaxy.com is where you can find us. YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, all those places. Type in Corner of the Galaxy. That's where we'll be. Guess what? Back to a normal schedule. We'll be here on Monday night. Mr. Kevin the Panda Baxter will be just champing at the bit to come and talk to you on a Monday, and we'll get to talk about that St. Louis game, and then another on Thursday. We're just going to keep this rolling, right? Why not? We only take one break. We stretch it out. We're now back into it and ready to go. The LA Galaxy taking on St. Louis City coming up on Saturday, 1:30 p.m. That again, 1:55 p.m. kickoff time. Apple TV, Fox, and Fox Deportes. Be safe, be kind. Love you all. For Mr. Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira, I'm Josh, Pato Guesman. You've been listening, you've been watching to our little Corner of the Galaxy. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening, and we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everyone.